So a lot of the gods in Smite are actually kind of dicks. And, well, you know, Arthur's probably no different. He's not technically a god, but he'll probably be called a god in Smite when he gets put in the game. But let's see if he's actually a dick by going through some of his stories, shall we? By the time Arthur was 15, many noblemen knew about the sword in the stone, and it's promised that whoever pulls it out of the stone will be made king. Many men refused Arthur as their king, as he was deemed too young to rule and began a series of conflicts attempting to take the throne for themselves. After some battles had been fought, Arthur and the rebel kings agreed to a peace treaty, one of these being King Lot. Arthur met his wife, Morgawis, who we're just going to call Morga because I'm pretty sure I screwed out that pronunciation. And soon they made love. She would bear him Mordred, but a disappointed Merlin would reveal that Morga was his half-sister and that Mordred would be his undoing as well as the kingdoms. Another version of that story has the two meet during Uther's funeral. Arthur still falls in love with Morga, and Lot must deal with some business in Blackcross. Pendragon enters her chambers and lays in bed. Morga believes him to be the king, so it's not until the morning that she realizes that she's actually just slept with Arthur Pendragon. They agree to never tell anyone about what happened, and Mordred is born soon after that. Arthur might not find out that he actually slept with his half-sister in this version though, but he might, so there's a bit of that uncertainty. Anyways, Arthur tried to avert Merlin's prophecy by running up any children born during May. Merlin even told him that the future could not be changed under any circumstances, but Arthur tried anyway. 550 children were taken, and King Lot's son was among them. King Lot still saw Mordred as his own son, and not the product of incest or any nastiness like that, and sent him off via a ship with a bunch of servants. A storm broke out, and killed pretty much everyone but Mordred, who's the sole survivor, which was kind of a good thing, because Mordred was then raised by someone else, not his father, for a bit. And the important thing is that Mordred wasn't amongst the 712 infants that were killed for more or less no reason than being Mordred. So they were killed for nothing, which is quite sad, and people found out about this. When Arthur's court found out about this, things weren't too pretty. Arthur was in a bit of trouble, but no war was declared. But when King Lot found out about this, war was declared. So let's just keep a score here of how douchey Merlin's been so far in what I've just talked to you about. Well, let's see. He killed a bunch of children for nothing. He lied to a bunch of parents and didn't tell them what the purpose of their children disappearing would be. He began a second war with a bunch of kings because of his actions, which war isn't a nice thing and it affects many parts of a community, so that's not very good on his kingdom. He slept with another man's wife, which was more or less the reason why this whole thing happened, because he bore a son, and the son was said to bring his doom because he sinned. So, in other words, he couldn't keep it in his pants, is I suppose a nice way to summarize all of this. So, yeah, so far, he counts as a dick, this King Arthur. Let's continue. I'm going to continue with the questing bee story. Arthur met Pellinore, a knight that he would challenge to a 1v1 duel. Pellinore breaks Arthur's sword mid-fight, and the king only survives because Merlin puts Pellinore to sleep. Merlin convinces Arthur not to then kill Pellinore in his sleep, because his children, Percival and another knight, would be great allies to him. But the fact that Arthur even wanted to just end the 1v1 duel, which was a fair fight that he technically would have lost by killing the man in his sleep, is just shady, dark, dickish thing to do, I think we can all agree. Pellinore was searching for the questing beast, a fierce monster with a snake's head and a neck. Leopard's body, lion's buttocks, horse feet, you know, the usual stuff you'd see in mythology. And it's got its name from the sound that it made. Apparently, the beast was the child of a princess, Hippomenes, who had mastery over necromancy and a bunch of other magical spells and things of that nature. She was quite intelligent and wise. She fell hopelessly in love with her pious and chaste brother, who intended to keep things that way. He refused any and all of her advances, and the shamed princess decided the best thing to do after that was to commit suicide because she's so intelligent and wise. Yeah. Anyways, before she was about to do that, an incubus demon decided to appear before her and convince her not to kill herself and made a deal with her. In return for sleeping with this demon, she would have her affection to her brother returned. But the demon sort of lied, So instead of having the feelings returned, she would instead feel nothing at all, and in fact, she would even be convinced to hatch out this plan to ruin her brother's life. So what she does is she enters her brother's bedding chambers, and whilst her brother's there, tries to do some sexy stuff with him, doesn't happen, doesn't work, so the brother proceeds to beat her up, and then she calls out for aid, the guards rush into the room, and then she makes it seem like they were doing something unspeakable. The brother's blamed for forcing himself on her, and she becomes pregnant, which is proof of that. So then the brother is then forced to face these dogs that haven't been fed for weeks in this pit, and he's more or less, it's a death sentence because he's got no way to defend himself. But before he enters that pit and dies barbarically, he figures out that because he's going to die in this way, her sister's child will be this horrible beast that will unleash so much death and carnage amongst the people of Britain. And so he dies in that terrible, unthinkable way, and then his sister gives birth to this horrible beast, and this beast goes around attacking men and women indiscriminately. It even goes to the castle and kills more or less, or harms more or less every single woman in the castle except for the princess. So it becomes obvious to the king that his son was innocent, and not only does he then decide to punish the princess, but punish her in a way that's supposed to be much worse than what the son got. So, I suppose that sucks. Now, was there really a point in telling you all of that story? Not really. I could have just told you what the questing beast was and left it at that, but I really wanted to tell you that story, and that's a good enough excuse for me, so there you go. Deal with it, I guess? I'm sure you enjoyed hearing the story, but back to the original story we were talking about. So Arthur has this broken Excalibur that wasn't actually Excalibur, and Merlin took the king to a lake. This lake was special because it was the home to the real Excalibur, so Arthur gets this real Excalibur, but he has to trade it for something special to the Lady of the Lake, a gift or a boon. And once that business is done, Merlin tells Arthur that the scabbard is better than the sword itself because the scabbard will stop him from coming under any harm from any weapon. The scabbard will stop him from coming under any harm from any weapon. So, you know, good scabbard, good stuff. So bringing things back to King Lot here, he dies when he finally confronts Arthur on the battlefield. And he might not necessarily have died, but Merlin stalled him a bit by trying to convince him that fighting against Arthur was a bad idea because Mordred was still alive, and that was kind of his main motivation for wanting to see Arthur dead, because he assumed that when those 712 infants were killed, Mordred was among them, but that wasn't true. Mordred didn't come home, sure, but Mordred was raised by someone else. Just didn't come home. But the even darker thing about that is that, of course, as we know, Mordred isn't even King Lot's son. Mordred is Arthur's son, which is quite sad. So Arthur almost killed his own son, which is incredibly dick thing to do, I guess. But yes, Merlin delays King Lot long enough for King Lot's allies to fall in battle. So by the time King Lot gets to this battle, it's his forces against Arthur's, who, you know, Arthur's forces are kind of OP. He's got some really good, very skilled knights on his side that are able to hold out against all odds. He's got a scabbard that stops him from taking any real or major damage, and he's got the sword Excalibur. So, you know, he's got a lot of plot armor in this fight. So, a bunch of the knights gang up on King Lot after King Lot takes out and kills Merlin's horse, and King Lot meets his end and dies, and that's more or less the end of the conflict. The two areas of the country that were clashing sort of make peace, and that's that. But Arthur really was in the wrong here. As far as King Lot was concerned, he was trying to avenge his child. He wasn't. And Arthur really could have just told him the truth, even though really telling him the truth would have still left him angry, and he still might have done exactly what he did, but at least he'd know what he's angry about, because he really didn't. Kind of like a child, which is kind of sad. It's like a dishonorable way to die almost, and it's kind of Arthur's fault. So, yeah, rip. But does all of this really make Arthur a dick? Or is he just like anyone else in mythology? Or does that still make him a dick, but just not as much of a dick as anyone else? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, leave a like. If you didn't, you could still leave a like, and of course subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. But till the next one, have a very good day. I've been Prime. See you guys in a few. Bye bye.